Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayer podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please go and leave a 5-star review. For example, here's a nice new review. This is from Christina198484. Love your show and guests. Always informative and a good time. P.S. Someone should tell Tara Reid Trump made it a felony to harm animals. The Biden administration doesn't give a fuck about humans. What makes her think they will care about animals? Good point, Christina. I always care about animals for sure. You know what else I care about? Our sponsors. Let's bring up the old Cushy Dreams website. Here we go. It's time to talk about Cushy Dreams, boys and girls. Here we go. It's time to smoke your CBD. I'm going to tell you guys about Cushy Dreams. Cushy Dreams offers a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, aka bud, in cans and pre-roll CBD joints. These products taste great. They look and smell and feel just like high quality weed, but they're not. I really like the Hustle blend because it gives me a little, it calms me down, but also gives me a little bit of focus, which I really, really like. And I like how I can just, me personally, I like the joints because I just have a couple pulls and within minutes, my body and mind feel totally relaxed. And you guys can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There's under 0.3% THC in all of these products. It's cannabis that ships directly to you, and it's legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. Cushy Dreams, smoke your CBD. They take the artisan approach. Every run is in a small batch. It's 100% hand trimmed, never machine trimmed. They are constantly doing independent lab tests to show compliance and purity. All of this can be found on their website, cushydreams.com. Each batch is slow cured for 2 to 4 weeks to guarantee maximum freshness and preserve flavor and cannabinoids. And best of all, it's grown here in the USA. They also are doing, that's what I really like here on their website. They have a 5-pack going of CBD hemp pre-roll joints. It's very chic. You can just stick it in your purse. That's what I like about it. And then it keeps it kind of clean and neat and together. They have a bunch of different indica sativa blends like Energy, Hustle, Dream, Create, Relax. I said them all. Dream. They're all really good. So go to cushydreams.com, Kushy dreams.com, get some high quality CBD bud. At the checkout, use promo code CMP. You're going to get 20% off every single order. And smoke your CBD, boys and girls. Guys, I've got dates. I'm doing stand-up in a city near you. I'm going to be in New Jersey at Tiff's Ale House in Morse Plains, New Jersey on 3/20 with Comedians of the Compound. Then I'm heading to Delaware, doing the House of Laffs, April 23rd and 24th. Then on to Florida, the Boca Black Box Theater in Boca Raton, Florida, April 30th, May 1st, the Lake Park Black Box Theater in Palm Beach. 5/2, I'll be at Side Splitters in Tampa. 5/9, Oklahoma City, that's Bricktown Comedy Club. May 14th and 15th, Comedians of the Compound is heading to Austin, Texas. Then I will be at Zanies in Nashville, May 18th. And May 19th, Stand Up Live in Huntsville, Alabama. Then Hilarities in Cleveland, Thursday, June 3rd. And I'm adding new dates all the time, boys and girls. And if I did not mention your city, just whatever, you know how to reach me. I'm very accessible. This episode is also brought to you by Lucy Nicotine. Lucy is a company founded by Caltech scientists and former smokers looking for a better and cleaner nicotine alternative. Finally, tobacco alternatives that don't suck. These products were researched and developed for 3 years to be made for people, not patients. Lucy has created a nicotine gum with 4 milligrams of nicotine that comes in 3 flavors, wintergreen, cinnamon, and pomegranate. They also have a lozenge in a cherry ice flavor. Each and every flavor actually tastes great. It's convenient, discreet. These products can be enjoyed anywhere, on flights, at work, on the go, in the gym. And they have a chic little website here. It's 2021. It's time to get rid of your cigarettes. Unplug your vape, throw out that gross dip, and get you some Lucy nicotine gum or lozenges. This is the real deal. A subscription to Lucy comes directly to your door each and every month. It's so simple. You don't have to leave your house because Lucy has delivery down. And for all my CMP listeners, go to lucy.co and use the promo code CMP to get 20% off all products, including gum and lozenges. That's lucy.co, lucy.co, and use the promo code CMP at checkout. Also, I have to give this disclaimer. Warning, this product contains nicotine derived from tobacco, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. But you know what else is addictive? Savings. That's right. So go to lucy.co, use the promo code CMP. All right, enough of that. I'm so excited to have this guest on again. You may recognize her from episode 166 with Brittany Venti about a month ago. Also, she was here on episode 124 about 3 months ago. She is a human trafficking survivor and advocate, and she was recently suspended from Twitter for her very first time. We can talk all about that because I'm a veteran on getting suspended from Twitter. It's Eliza Bleu.
Hi, Chrissie. Thank you so much for having me. You know what's wild? Today you are my only podcast that I've done 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I hope you're not sick of me yet. I'm just hoping that you're not going to leave me.
No, you said you want to do a podcast with me, and I was like, duh. Everybody else, I'm like, I don't have time. I have time for Chrissie, and I had time for Dr. Drew. They're the only ones I said yes to.
Yeah. Did you do Dr. Drew already?
I do Dr. Drew this Thursday on March 18th.
Ooh. And you kind of have do you have the hots for him a little bit? Is that an open secret?
He is by far definitely a silver fox crush of mine, but I have developed a very friendly relationship with his wife. So
okay.
I respect their marriage quite a bit. She is a lovely person, and I'm really looking forward to getting an opportunity to talk to Dr. Drew. He's been a hero of mine for a long time. I was a teenager living in Los Angeles listening to K-Rock when they were doing Loveline.
Yes, I remember Loveline. I would stay up really late because I shared a room with my sister. We were in high school and we would just like stay up and listen to it together. And we would tell each other like, okay, if it gets really bad, we'll turn it off. We never turned it off.
No, he raised a whole generation. So I'm really, really looking forward to talking to him. And honestly, I just think he'll have a lot of insight about what happens to the mental state and folks that deal with addiction issues that have been trafficked. So I think it'll be a really, really interesting conversation. Sort of a wild moment for me, though. I never saw my life headed in this direction. So pretty cool.
It is very exciting. I know. I felt the same way. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Drew. Like I too, in a way, felt like he like raised me and like in the sense that nobody was talking to me about like any kind of sexuality stuff at all. And he does give off daddy vibes for sure.
Total dad vibes. I'm actually more nervous to do Dr. Drew than I was to do Tim Pool. So like all this week, I'll be studying my, statistics and data just in anticipation for the show so that I can make sure. I did not brush up for.
No, this is just a big cat. I was just like, you know what, Eliza, just show up and look good. The rest will take care of itself.
Girl, I was banned today. I barely had any time. I was too busy being suspended, not banned, suspended.
Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. So I didn't expect you to come back to Twitter. You came back onto Twitter like just before we started recording, which was pretty amazing. And yeah, you had like a mutual friend, like, basically delivering messages back and forth. And for those of you who do not know, the fact, why Eliza has been on, a couple of times already. She's a huge proponent and a very passionate supporter, basically of this ongoing case, this lawsuit against Twitter. There's a John Doe lawsuit over a failure to remove child pornography content because it didn't violate its policies. And this has been a topic that's been in the news for several months now, but it has kind of resurfaced again because Twitter is now officially moving to dismiss the lawsuit, citing Section 230 immunity. And at this point, like we've been hearing, for a couple months now, like big tech, Section 230. Like it kind of allows them, and maybe you can describe it better, Eliza, but like Section 230 basically allows these big tech companies, these social media platforms lets them off like scot-free. They don't have to take any responsibility for the content that's passed through their platforms.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Section 230 allows these platforms immunity as long as they're not acting as publishers. And I think that one thing has become abundantly clear since 2020, especially. We already sort of had an inkling that this was coming. There have been major bans for quite some time. Alex Jones was probably one of the first, Laura Loomer, Milo Yiannopoulos, and other, all these folks that you can't.
Yeah, Gavin McGinnis. And then that's the thing, is they've been banned for so long now, for years now, that it's almost like you could very easily, like, all you hear about, a Milo or a Gavin would be like what everybody else thinks about them. It's like they'll highlight their mistakes, but never, especially Alex Jones was right about so many things that we can see are now coming to fruition. But that's what the mainstream media is so good at. They'll just bury you, and then they get to kind of tell the story of you while you're censored. And thank God for these other social media apps that have come along, I guess in the last, but leading up to the election, but definitely I think since the election, I've been seeing more and more pop up.
Yeah, so they were sort of the precursor to what we're seeing now. That being said, I'm not speaking out about why they might have been banned. I kind of have a couple feelings on it, but it always ties back to human trafficking. So my feeling on it, just in general, as far as Section 230 goes, I truly feel that Section 230 was put in place at a time when we weren't really sure where the internet was going to go or what these platforms were really going to do. Right now, it sort of seems a little antiquated considering what big tech has become. I often say that big tech is more powerful than our United States government at this point. They flexed their power when they banned, when Donald Trump was the sitting president of the United States. Now, I have another feeling as well. I truly feel that Twitter is a private company in the United States, and they can say, look, Eliza, we just don't like your face, so you got to go. You know what I'm saying? They could be like, we just don't like your face, so you got to go. The difficulty is that they want that Section 230 protection, but then they want to act the other way as well. That's not how it actually plays out in real life. So you're seeing a lot of push to abolish Section 230 or to amend Section 230. Where human trafficking sits in there is that in 2018, Donald Trump signed into effect FOSTA-SESTA. FOSTA, FOSTA -SESTA. Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act. And John Doe's case will really push the limits of FOSTA-SESTA. The question of FOSTA-SESTA comes down to the word knowingly. Did Twitter knowingly profit off of John Doe's child sexual exploitation? Yes, they did. They absolutely did, because Twitter wrote back John Doe and said, after reviewing this content, it did not violate our terms of service. He was and is still a minor today and had provided him with government ID. So any moment that profile was up and collecting views and ad revenue, since he reported it, Twitter profited off his child sexual exploitation knowingly. And
so
that's what it's down to.
So you're saying, Eliza, there could have been ads on this video or on the video itself, or even, how Twitter will have like, they'll have ads in the form of like promoted tweets, like surrounding something, or maybe even on the side. Because I want people to understand the full extent of how Twitter knowingly financially benefits off this child porn material.
So when we've signed up for a free platform, it seems all fine and dandy, but in essence, we are the commodity. These platforms sell our data, and they also sell our profile. So as far as Twitter goes, as last time I checked, there's 331 active Twitter users a month. That number definitely has shifted a little bit since the pandemic, just because so many folks were online. But generally speaking, there's 331 active Twitter users a month around the world. And what they do is that they go to a company like Coca-Cola and say, hey, we have this many active Twitter users a month. And you could sell our ad, and this is how many people it'll reach. So that profile, which had been reported multiple times, by the way, before John Doe, we have evidence of this, that profile would have gone into that number, 331 active Twitter users, and also the potential data could have been sold from that profile as well. So even my account, my @Eliza Bleu Twitter account or your Twitter account, that falls into a money-making scheme. This is not a free, there's a reason that Twitter makes money. And it's not necessarily like we don't put money into it, but they sell us as the commodity. And
yeah, I would always be like, why does Twitter have a stock? It's like, I'm starting to learn this all myself too. It's like, why is there even a Twitter stock? But it's like, yeah, anytime you're on a platform for free, it's like you're what's being sort of sold, bought. It's kind of creepy to think about.
Yeah, you're the product.
And that's the thing is Twitter is using this Section 230 immunity. Like, it's almost like they're kind of claiming it's because I'm reading these articles. It's almost like their lawyers are saying like, how could Twitter possibly be able to keep track of everything? Like, how could they, possibly keep track of all the videos that go back and forth? But it's like, there's proof that these videos were reported like multiple times. Like, it took, and I can't imagine how like this mom and this, John Doe must feel, but it took like 9 days for these videos to come down, or the one video. And it wasn't until like the Department of Homeland Security involved? There was some government agency that had to step in to reach out to Twitter for them to finally listen to get it down. And at the time it came down, it had like over 2,000 retweets, over 160,000 views, which you said on a previous episode, like that's not easy to get. It's like when it makes you think about like how many creeps there are on Twitter to have viewed that so many times. And it's like passed around, amongst these circles. And this kid is still not even 18 years old yet, even today. And this lawsuit has been going on for so long.
But he's brave. He's a brave young man.
Incredibly, yeah.
This brave young man is willing to take on Twitter. And honestly, this new little stunt that Twitter's pulling is just another slap in the face. It does not look good. And by the way, Facebook's doing the exact same thing to 3 minor survivors of sex trafficking as well.
Really?
Absolutely. They've tried to get that case dismissed 3 times. So this is nothing new. These platforms continuously show us who they are, so we need to start believing them. John Doe almost committed suicide. And that's something I fear. They're still putting him through hell. They should have just cut him a check and kept it pushing. But instead, what they're going to do is they're going to push it and push it and push it. And ultimately, they're going to end up looking even worse than they do now. Ultimately, they're going to give, realistically, it stinks because I hate seeing John Doe go through this, right? Or in his family. I hate seeing John Doe and his beautiful, amazing family. His mother's absolutely incredible. She did an interview with Chris Hansen, both of his lawyers, both of John Doe's lawyers and John Doe's mother, Jane Doe, did an interview with Chris Hansen. I would encourage everyone to go check that out, definitely. But it's just like, it stinks that they're having to go through this, but ultimately this is going to backfire on whatever Twitter's trying to do, because the longer that the story stays in the headlines, the more of an opportunity it gives more survivors an opportunity to step forward that have survived exploitation on Twitter. And what's going to end up happening is exactly what's happening with Pornhub, which is going to be class action, class action, class action. So if there's any survivors out there that have been exploited on Twitter specifically, and if you think you fit the bill, I would contact the National Center the National Center on Sexual Exploitation Law, NCOSE Law, NCOSE Law, and they will. They have a little survey spot on their website that will help you walk through whether or not you qualify for a case.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. I'm definitely going to put that in the link and like the details below. Cool. This is crazy. So I'm bringing up this article from the Epic Times. Right. This lawsuit was filed in January and it's March already.
Like jerks, they dragged their feet instead of cutting John Doe a check, knowing that they were wrong, dragged their feet, and then came back and claimed Section 230 immunity.
Wow. It's wild. It's just so wild because it's like they think that this is what saving face from a PR standpoint when it's like, no, it's like, in fact, seeing them try to dismiss the case actually makes them look even worse. It's just like you're saying, because it puts the headlines in people's faces. It's like, oh, this is still going on. Like they're still trying to like swat this away.
Well, from an advocate standpoint, I hate to see it because I hate to see John Doe and his family have to go through this. From a personal standpoint, I actually hope it goes to Discovery. When it goes to Discovery, I think that we'll find that there's quite a bit more going on behind the scenes at Twitter that we don't know about. They are prioritizing everything except for removing the child sexual abuse material at scale. And I know that their excuse is, oh, how can we do it? How can we do it? If you can't remove child sexual abuse material at scale, then maybe you shouldn't have a platform, period.
Yeah. Yeah. And this isn't like, I don't think the lawsuit is saying, Twitter should be combing through every single video. Like, I understand that. Even though there is like AI available, I think that can help with that. It's like the lawsuit is not even claiming that. It's like this was a video that was reported so many times. So what is happening between folks reporting it and them reviewing it or not reviewing it? It's like you said before, this isn't just like a passive, barely anybody works for Twitter. It's like, no, there's like a lot of people working for Twitter. They definitely have bodies that can review these claims, review these reports. And I'm going to show people
I'm sorry, just to back up.
Oh, okay.
So just so that folks are aware, Twitter in their public transparency reports, you can look up this as public knowledge. The last time I think that they reported this, but I could be wrong, was their 15th transparency report. In their 15th transparency report, which lives on their blog on Twitter, they talk about the fact that 91% of the child sexual abuse material is discovered by Microsoft Photo DNA. Microsoft Photo DNA is also the artificial intelligence that Facebook, Reddit, and Pornhub all use. This is a very unique product, but it was made in 2009.
Oh, wow.
So right now we have a really, really big problem. And to be brutally honest, I truly feel like it's going to get worse. I feel like the platforms are moving more to end-to-end encryption, which would actually make it impossible to detect. So, and honestly, I feel that the absolute best folks at explaining this, believe it or not, are New York Times reporters, Gabriel Dance and Michael Keller. Have both done extensive reporting and podcasts about this. If this is something that you're interested in, they absolutely have done I have learned the most about all of this, believe it or not, from the New York Times reporters. They do an excellent of laying it all out. Yeah.
Who knew? The New York Times does good work. Well, he said Michael Keller and Gabriel, what's his last name?
Gabriel Dance. I think it's Gabriel X something Dance, and then Michael Keller. Absolutely, by far the most incredible reporting. NBC's done a good job, but really the New York Times extremely thorough. Gabriel Dance has done a couple podcasts. He did one with Sam Harris, believe it or not, amazing podcast, very thorough. But there were some podcasts that he did with the actual New York Times. So the New York Times did 2 podcasts about this issue as well. Absolutely heartbreaking, riveting. I had to take breaks while I was listening. It's almost too difficult to listen to, but by far the best at explaining this issue. I wish that Gabriel Dance would do more podcasts. I've been begging him to do it.
Okay, I'll have to get my claws into him. So just to show people what exactly you got suspended for. Yes. And this is always good to do. Anytime you get banned or like kicked from Twitter and they say they'll always show you the tweets that they're banning you for. It's always good to take screenshots of this so that you can eventually post them later and everyone can see how ridiculous it is. So if you've never been banned or suspended from Twitter before, what they'll do is they'll isolate your tweet or tweets and give you whatever reason they deem. And so apparently Eliza violated our rules against posting private information, even though all she said was keep shining Centoya Brown, human trafficking, self-defense bill makes progress, Memphis local sports. So you're basically retweeting a news article and saying, keep shining Centoya Brown. Why? Why would this be a suspendable tweet?
Word on the street, and I still have very little information on this, is that they did a broad scale ban on the word Memphis. And I was one of the first profiles that they zapped as a result. Cynthia Brown, by the way, is absolutely one of the most incredible survivors. If you folks don't know her story, please check it out. She was the minor sex trafficking survivor that got locked up, and a lot of celebrities came out and talked about the fact that she was locked up for, she's awesome. I love her. Her story is absolutely incredible. She is a killer survivor. She's a great voice in the space, and she's out here working. She actually ended up shooting and killing one of her abusers as a minor sex trafficking survivor, and she got locked. Trying to change the law so that doesn't happen to more survivors. More survivors. And this is something that we see quite frequently. Actually, we're working on a couple cases like this right now where victims of human trafficking are locked up.
Wow.
Because they get caught up in she did kill someone, but it was in self-defense. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like that's wow. Why would they ban just the word Memphis? They just don't want people talking about this case.
She's out. She's a free survivor advocate. she's just working on a bill. I find it very interesting timing that I was going so hard on Twitter. And then they found a reason to suspend my account.
It is interesting because when one of the times that I was suspended, I remember it's like a few months ago, might have been over the summer. I was reporting these Twitter handles that were like, and this is when I was like just realizing how much like CP is on Twitter. And I was like reporting like this one account in particular. And I was reporting like, because I didn't know how you do it. I would report each post, each tweet, and I would report the account itself. And I was like going nuts. And then eventually like I was suspended and they were like, one of the reasons were like, oh, well, we think you're sharing it. I'm like, no, it's like I'm reporting these accounts. And so they ask you to delete certain tweets. And one of the tweets that Twitter made me delete was when I was critical of their reaction time. I was like, wow, Twitter, it took you 4 hours to acknowledge this, the fact that this is happening, like 4 hours to acknowledge it. Thank God you guys aren't EMTs or something like that. Like I tried to make a joke and then I didn't say anything crazy.
But it is funny.
Yet I was like, wow, it's a good thing no one's holding their breath over here, like waiting for this account to come down. But I think I was given notification like, oh, we've received your report. And it was 4 hours later. And I was like, wow, you guys are taking your sweet ass Sunday afternoon time. It probably wasn't even on a Sunday. But so, yeah, that's just another example of how like oftentimes you get suspended over like kind of nothing. It's just they get triggered or something. And then if they like already don't like you for some reason, maybe you're among the first to put in the penalty box. I don't know.
Oh, they definitely don't like me. That's for sure.
Yeah, you have not slowed down one bit. I love it though. And it's not easy to do. Like I'm sure there's some days when you're like, oh, I don't want to, like it's saddening. I'm sure makes you angry, depressed, like, because this is tough stuff. This is very sad stuff. So to constantly advocate for this every single day, like I really applaud you because it really can't be easy, especially when you're reporting stuff and like you're uncovering these like accounts. It's upsetting to see it. It's triggering to see it as a survivor yourself. So I really applaud you.
So a lot of people think that I go to look for child sexual abuse material accounts. That's by no means what I do at all. I actually work really hard not to see that material. I've just found along in my journey that it sets me back just in general, and I need to keep myself real sharp and ready to fight. So I can't be set back to a mental state that's dark. So, but I do think about the problem constantly. And, I think sometimes folks don't understand. I'm usually like tweeting while I'm doing a million other things. So I am thinking about it, but, and this is one thing I hope I could talk to Dr. Drew about, is I truly feel like my mind is compartmentalized. So like I can be talking about a cute guy. Is it really though? That's kind of scary.
That's good. I feel like I can't compartmentalize, like always an hour to an hour and a half before I even record this podcast or do a show or anything. Like I can't do anything else. Like if I'm not so focused, I'm not going to feel prepared.
Well, before Dr. Drew, I mean, no shade to you, but like I know your energy, so like I was like, okay, I don't really need to get too much like I don't have to like study or anything. For Dr. Drew, I'm going to study.
Right. And you know like what you're talking about, like because you're living it every day. Yeah.
You would hope. Wait, I question myself sometimes, but I am very compartmentalized in the way where I can be on the phone talking to my best friend about a cute guy and still be tweeting about that stuff. So I'm very not necessarily focused. And one thing that does help me is I don't think about the actual act. I look more at the facts. So I'm viewing it more like a puzzle. There are times where it really hits me, and I always let folks know I'm not stone cold about it. There are some cases that hit me a different way, and I never know when it's coming. And it's really wild. I actually would like, even if I talk to him about it off camera, it's like, why is it I could talk about this stuff all day long and then it'll just be, I'll hear one thing and it'll just break me. John Doe's case specifically has been a really difficult one for me to it's just been a difficult one. Like truthfully, John Doe is realistically what's changed the trajectory of a lot of things for the last couple, like since last summer, so almost coming on almost a year. Once I found out about his case, it set me along on a journey that I just wasn't anticipating going on before. There have been other moments like when the victim passed away of a drug overdose. She was 16. This was just a couple months ago. She was 16 and under pimp control. The pimp was having her do drugs. She passed away, and it was kind of like, it wasn't that nobody cared, but it was really difficult to get anybody to care. And I was like really upset about it. And then one of the survivors of Pornhub was testifying the other day, and there was a moment during her testimony where she was talking about taking images of herself naked to prove that it was her on the Pornhub, just so she could show like birthmarks, like specific things that would be specific to her body. And to think about a woman, she's a paralegal, a woman that has no intention of being in the adult industry, taking naked photos of herself just to simply get the naked videos of her taken off of Pornhub. For some reason that hit me weird. And I just couldn't, I was like really upset about it. I mean, it's not like upset where it ruins my whole day. But it hits me. And
it's like you're trying to get out of a burning house, but you have to go through it. You got to go back in, even though you're out of it. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's really wild. So I just try to stay on it, but I'm not surprised that I was finally suspended from Twitter. They've been shadow banning me and throttling me. They've been doing little things to me. I mean, it's hilarious because I think I have 30, I don't even know how many followers I have at this point, but I'll have some tweets that'll have like one like, and I'm like, okay, Twitter.
Yeah, you have 37.6 followers to be exact. Yeah. And you have a lot of engagement, and yeah, that's why when you have a tweet that gets one like, you're like, okay, where did this tweet end up?
So my last tweet got, 300, 500 likes, 5,000 likes, and now you're going to put me down to one. It's like, okay, Twitter.
Just one person saw this. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Twitter. Like, okay, what else you got? Like, and it's hilarious. I have ways around it, though. I think you probably have figured out my little ways that I have around stuff that when I really want when I want the word out, I get the word out.
Do you use like a code word? I'll see people sometimes put like numbers in the middle of words to try to like, step over the algorithm. Like what tips do you have?
Well, I have so many Twitter tips. I mean, that's one thing. So really sort of being hyper-focused on this social media, child sexual abuse material and human trafficking issue has really afforded me the ability to get really savvy on Twitter. And it's actually been pretty cool. So some of my tricks that I use, there are some rules with Twitter to make a tweet really popular. I think it's concise. Was it clear? It's 3 C's. Concise,
color,
concise, conversational, and clear, or something like that. It's like the short and sweet, basically, and controversial. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
so if I put out a tweet like Twitter fix your child porn problem, it's like that grabs the attention. Or like yesterday, I did a quick one where I was like, why is it in 2021 that we've canceled everything except for pedos?
Yeah, that's really good.
There's also ways to like abbreviate. So like I've found that the algorithm, people always get on me about this, people in the movement, they're like, why don't you say child sexual abuse material? I'm like, because the algorithm already hates that. So the Twitter,
Yeah.
it does, it really does. So if you put CSAM, the abbreviation for child sexual abuse material, or CSEM, child sexual exploitation material, if you put any abbreviation of those words or the actual words, the algorithm pushes it down. But if you say child porn, it won't.
Interesting, and I think that's funny because more people know what child porn is than they do what like CSAM. Like that I feel like people that are in the business of helping survivors know what that abbreviation means, but like regular people might not.
Yeah, so I use both, but if I want a tweet to fly, I'll say child porn.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Also,
Interesting.
because I'm so heavily throttled, if I have something that I truly want folks to see, I send it to them manually.
Oh, really? What do you mean? Like you'll send the tweet to people's DMs?
I do that to you all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't know. Like, I thought you meant like tagging somebody at the top of a tweet.
Oh, I grab the tweet and I send it to you, and I'm not necessarily asking for a retweet or a like. Sometimes especially folks with a really big platform, I'm not necessarily asking for them, but it's just to keep the conversation going. And if they want to boost it, that's their prerogative. But to be really honest, it's worked out really well.
Which is great because sometimes I won't like naturally see your tweets. Duh, wonder why. But like it's good to get, oh, okay, this is like I want to know like what you're up to. And so it is nice to get those updates. And especially it's like I think I heard about this through you, the fact that they were trying to get out because of Section 230. And I was like, oh, they're at it again.
Back at it again.
Back at it again.
No, like if I have a tweet, like if I have information that I really want out there, like Rose McGowan or somebody like Tara Reid who's been very supportive, I'll definitely go ahead and manually send that to them just so that they know what's also going on in the survivor space, because that could apply to other things that they have going on as well.
Yeah, I just interviewed Tara Reid like just last week. Yeah, like she's really amazing. Like I can't imagine, I mean, watching the person who sexually harassed, assaulted you like get to be president, and especially with everything on top of like, I mean, the shenanigans with the votes, and it's just she has to be so strong. So it was really like fantastic to talk to her, and yeah,
boost that one. I didn't know she's been incredibly supportive, which I think has been really nice. There's been some survivors, my more high profile survivors. Of course, the Epstein survivors are always really cool to me, and they've really always helped me out a lot. And then other survivors like Tara, Rose McGowan, and just a lot of really amazing people. But, one thing that has really helped me out too, and I always try to stress this on folks and other survivors that are just coming up, because I'm not stupid. I know eventually they're going to try to get rid of me. So I'm trying to raise up a couple other survivors that I think can do similar things as well. Not that they necessarily need my help, but they're asking for it. So I say, okay, let's do it. Let's get you ready to do interviews, podcasts. But I try to reach out to folks that aren't necessarily in the survivor space. You're a perfect example. So like you and I do great collaborations because you have an audience that I would never be able to reach on my own, that maybe not know about the issues. That's more what I've tried to do over the last handful of months, is just where can I go that I can reach a large group of people that might not already be talking about the issue, but might actually want to know more.
Yeah. Because it's a hard, complex thing to like get into, if you don't know a survivor, but like, anybody who hears a survivor story is like, immediately feels for them. And it's just, it can seem tricky and daunting. Like, how can I make a difference, and then you did Tim Pool's show, which is like amazing. And like, speaking of, huge audiences, how did it feel to do that, to talk about that on his show? I think, did you guys have to do like a little post show, like explain that? Because I think, there might have been like, you were concerned that would get censored, that you couldn't speak freely about the subject matter without getting dinged.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, that happened really fast. So the week of John Doe, so I don't think a lot of folks know. So like people see me on Twitter and like the public me, but they don't usually know what's going on behind the scenes. So like the John Doe thing had been a buildup for a very long time. A lot of sleepless nights, let's put it that way. This is a very stressful, like this, it's not all the time. Like right now it's pretty chill, but sometimes in anticipation for certain things, that's very stressful. The buildup to John Doe was wild because I knew once the story was out, I was going to go wild. I was going to go wild, which I was already wild before John Doe, but
Yeah.
I knew I was going to go hard for this young man, partially because it's not like he asked me to or anything. It's partially because he can't be out here speaking for himself. He's a minor. His life could be in danger. He's taking on big tech. So his life would definitely be in danger doing this lawsuit. That's truly how I feel. Just because big tech has manpower, money, and let's be honest, would it be that weird for somebody to really make a hard effort to silence a voice that they don't like? You know what I mean? That's how I feel. And
do you feel like your life is in danger talking about this?
Every day, all day.
All day, every day. No big deal. Just every day, all day. That's hard.
I don't even, it's not even a question. I absolutely know. But since we're taking it there, I actually blog about this sometimes, but I don't think folks really realize, like, not only am I a survivor, so my own traffickers are still out there. They want me gone, especially now that I'm being so public. They want me gone, like gone, you know? And then you have the other survivors that I've served. Their traffickers also want me gone. So because in essence, they feel like I took away their money. And down to money. Also too now, because of the fact that I'm doing interviews and I'm a public survivor leader, I would be a good prize. I would be a high prize. Like on the streets, I would be a high prize to be gone because it would set an example for folks to sit down and shut up. Also the fact that I directly work with the Epstein survivors, a very high profile case with a lot of high profile names attached. Not all have been caught, or not all justice has been received in those cases. I work with other high profile survivors as well. And I'm also very publicly speaking out against Pornhub. Pornhub has something called the Mind Geek Mafia, is what we call them in the movement. Absolutely. Lila Mickelwaite from Trafficking Hub was speaking to the Canadian Parliament the other day under oath and said that she was talking about putting a safe house in her house, a safe room in her house, like to lock in. That's how dangerous this is. At times I've worn a bulletproof vest. Not to try to sound dramatic, but it's just the way it goes. I don't think people fully understand that.
I just thought you had big boobs. Wow.
That too.
Yeah, that's both. My gosh, this is like scary work. But it seems like I bet you're one of these people who feels like, I just feel called to do this work. You feel like you have to, I think someone wouldn't be putting themselves in this position unless they felt like strongly called to speak out, and to set an example.
Well, yeah, I always say that if I had children of my own, or was even maybe if I was even in a serious relationship, I don't know if I would do this job. It would probably just be better for me to be off the grid. Also, I was never planning on being a public survivor leader. It's like I was never planning on this. I think folks, this is like the weirdest part, but like I was never planning on like doing interviews or like being out here like this. It really just happened because of COVID-19. I was reaching out to different journalists, which I do all the time. Like I reach out to journalists if we need something done, if we need something talked about. Not all journalists answer, and some journalists don't care. Or sometimes they answer about some things and sometimes not about others. But when COVID-19 hit, when the first lockdowns hit, I knew as an advocate and as a survivor what we were looking at moving forward. And every prediction I made was completely correct. The only publication that hit me back was the Daily Wire. Amanda at the Daily Wire hit me back and she said, I want to publish this information, but I think it'd be better if we attach your name and your picture. And I had never done that before on purpose.
Wow.
I never wanted that. Like I never wanted any of this, but COVID-19 was a unique set of circumstances that, and this is April, so I haven't even been out for a year yet. I think it's April 4th. that
Wow.
I feel like it's like me coming out as being like
Yeah.
queer or
It is
something.
it is coming out in a way.
It is like coming out, but yeah, so I was just I really wanted to stay private just for safety reasons. And she said it, and I felt like it was a unique enough circumstance. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, I need this information out there, like more than I need to stay private.
Was it something about the Daily Wire or who you were working with or who you reached out to that made it seem easier to be public with it?
Well, Amanda has been very kind. She also wrote the piece about Jack and I, whatever. My call out, the call out.
Reviewed, yeah.
Yeah. And there's been a couple others with Daily Wire as well about cuties and things like that. And she was very kind. I always feel a little bit better with women, the truth. Yeah, I do. But it actually had nothing to do with that. It was solely just because I wanted the information out because of COVID-19. I would have never come out. If COVID-19 never happened, I would have never been a public survivor leader, period.
Wow. It's all your fault, Fauci and Gates. How has COVID-19 lockdowns how come there's a link between that and a bigger impact on human trafficking? What's the link?
Quite a bit. So there's a couple factors there. So first and foremost, I think one thing that always gets lost is I don't think people really realize how nuanced the conversation of human trafficking truly is. It's extremely nuanced. So that's why a lot of people get lost. I don't blame them for it. I can even get lost myself. But the reason why a situation like the lockdowns with COVID-19 were such a factor is because when folks can't work, they have to do things for money that they never thought they'd do. And folks that are engaging in survival sex is that gray area right before human trafficking. Survival sex would be like for something like housing, food, drugs, medicine.
So not even escorting, not even like what you think of semi-glamorous, like, oh, I'm being flown out to a hotel. It's
so
just rent.
I'd classify that as willing adult sex work.
Yeah.
Willing adult sex work is completely different than survival sex, and survival sex is different than human trafficking. But survival sex can turn into human trafficking. So that's one of the reasons. Some of the data and statistics that we saw early on was a 40% increase. I think in April, March, we saw 40% increase during April, and then the 46% increase to the National Human Trafficking Hotline within those first couple months of the lockdown. Sexual assault, a lot of folks were inside the house with their abusers as well. So when we're talking about human trafficking, 90 to 92, I think it airs more on 92, let's go with 92% of victims of human trafficking have a pre-existing relationship with their abusers. So we're talking caregivers, family members, boyfriends, folks like that. So that's a factor as well. People were stuck at home with their abusers with no way to make money. That's the truth.
Jesus. Yeah, I was looking I know this is probably hard for a lot of people to believe, but I was looking on your Twitter feed and you tweeted about
what was I tweeting about? Some
this
crazy
girl that it was her own mother. It was like sisters speak out after allegedly being human trafficked by their own mother. Was this in South Africa?
That's very standard. That's actually that's very standard, especially in rural areas. We see a lot of that, predominantly for drugs. I saw a statistic today. I tried to back up this is before I got suspended, but I saw 40% are familial. Actually, it could have been from this article.
Oh my
Let's scroll down from this article because I looked
in Cape Town.
But this is standard, even from within the United States.
Teenagers. God, and she ended up also in a safe house as well. They hadn't been going to school the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't even live in a real house. They lived in a wooden structure with no roof, just material sheeting. They shared it with their mother, who was addicted to drugs such as heroin and tick. What is tick?
I don't know. Google it.
Okay. I've never even heard of it. I was like, I've heard of TikTok.
I feel like
we're all addicted to TikTok.
I don't want to show my ignorance and I don't want to lose some street cred by not knowing what it is.
I have never heard of it. I'm pretty down in the streets. I can't believe I didn't know what it was. Yeah, their mother. I just can't believe how does a mom get to a place where they're sex trafficking their own kids? What? In exchange for what? Money? Is it
Yeah,
always money?
money or drugs. It's severe desperation, but I always try to remind folks because a lot of folks have a difficult time wrapping their head around this. There
Yeah,
have been, there have been periods in history where parents have eaten their own children to stay alive, not at a small scale, at a massive scale. So if we know that, is it that beyond the pale that folks are selling their own children for sex? No, it is not. They do
wow.
not see, they're not functioning within the same framework of reality that you and I are.
Right. It's just, yeah, you're just at this whole new level of desperation. It says our mother was a heavy drug user and she would take the food, money, and clothing we received from people and sell it to get her drugs. These kids would also like have like a regular spot that they would beg at.
And
Beg.
child begging by law is human trafficking as well.
Wow. Yeah, they begged for food and money daily to feed their mother's addiction, even when it rained. Our job was to beg for food and money, and we did it in front of the Habiba Mosque. In front of a mosque. Wow. The 14-year-old reveals there were times she was so hungry I used to eat sand or scratch in the bins. Death was a common sight for the children and others. Oh my goodness. We would play in the dam where we would sometimes find bodies. This is like just like drama after trauma these kids have lived.
Yeah.
They would cleverly hide money from their mother so that they could feed themselves and their little brother. That's so hard. It's like you're growing up without a mother. Like when your mom or dad is like addicted to drugs like this, it's like they're just not there.
I mean, I think it might be worse than growing up without a mother. You're growing up the mother of your mother.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're in a situation where you're like 16 and you have to like take care of yourself and like raise your siblings. Whoo, boy. Yeah. And this is like fairly common.
Extremely common, even from within the United States. This is not rare. It's I wish I could tell you something different, but that's not my job to sugarcoat it, you know?
Right. Right. And it shouldn't be sugar coated. What are your thoughts? Because a lot of people lately have been talking about they have strong feelings about the border. There's kind of there's always been this ongoing fight about like immigration here in the US, like oh, legals versus illegals, giving them rights, not giving them rights. Oh, I can't believe that you don't need an ID to vote, but you need an ID to do all these other things in this country. Do you feel like there is a link between, what's going on at the border and sex trafficking, human trafficking? And also, I know there's a difference between smuggling and trafficking that I think is important.
Yes. So that is definitely the question. I was like getting into all these fights with all these boomer cons in my mentions this morning before I was so the funny thing about my Twitter, Chrissie, you might get this because you're hip to it, but like legit everybody hates me all at once. So it's like I'll have
everyone, even the wokesters and the non-wokesters. Yeah.
Legit, like I'll have leftists, boomer cons, MAGA 2020. I'll have sex workers and anti-porn people all in my mentions all at once, just like throwing so much shade, just like hating me. And I'm like, okay, cool, maybe I'm doing something right. but yeah, it's hilarious. But today was BoomerCon day. I prefer my favorite days of getting hate or like any Elon, because Elon Musk gets a lot of haters, and sometimes I tweet about Elon Musk just because whatever. I feel like he's such an innocuous figure. I guess he's not.
He's mysterious for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because I did the collaboration with Tesla and I've done some other things with that crowd. You know what I mean? For work, like not like I'm not, it's more like I'm doing fundraisers type stuff and people just get their feathers in a ruffle about Elon. So anyway, your question about the border. So right now we are at a humanitarian crisis at the border. Absolutely. It is something that I'm thinking about, and it is on the tip of everyone's tongues. When I say human trafficking is nuance, take the nuance of human trafficking and kick it up about 100 notches when you talk about the border. That is extreme nuance. I can try to break it down to the best of my ability in a quick and concise way. So when we look at the border, well, first and foremost, I want folks to know that according to our United States government trafficking in persons report, 77% of folks that are trafficked from within their country of origin. So start off by saying that. This is 77%. So I would be a perfect example. I would fall into that 77%. I'm from the United States. I was trafficked in the United States. So let's already start off with that. That being said, the crisis that's going on in the border could skew that number a little bit. And I'm always open to that. Something else I'd like to note, that there is a strong difference between human smuggling and human trafficking. This is probably the biggest misconception about the border. Just because someone's crossing the border with a human smuggler does not mean that they're being trafficked. Human smuggler is a consensual relationship between the individual and the coyote or smuggler. Sometimes smugglers are called coyotes, or other names as well, like mules, things like that. So there is a difference. Oh, yay. Yes, please pull up my
visual aids.
I use that like once a week. I just feel like that breaks it down really well. So trafficking is there's a vast difference between human smuggling and human trafficking. I could pay someone to smuggle me across the border, and it does not necessarily mean that they're trafficking me. That being said, so trafficking always involves force, fraud, or coercion. Force, fraud, or coercion. It has
you don't even have to you don't have to leave your state. It's like these Epstein survivors. They might have been trafficked from Florida to Florida. Like that doesn't, they don't have to actually leave. No. I think a lot of people think you go to another country, you're in a truck, I don't know, in the back of a train.
So I always let folks know you don't even need to leave your own bedroom to be trafficked. This is, digital trafficking. I could send someone an image. Your child could send someone an image. John Doe did not leave his bedroom before he was trafficked on Twitter. So think about that one. So I always want folks to remember that you don't need to leave your home to be trafficked. And I think one thing that's important when we're talking about this is that we talk about the fact that human smuggling can turn into human trafficking. If you pay a human smuggler to smuggle you across the border, but they're actually a trafficker, so you could think that you're signing up to consensual agreement, but with a smuggler or coyote. But they could actually be a human trafficker, and then it can turn into human trafficking. So I also think some important things to remember is that when we talk about human trafficking only at the border, what it's doing is it's creating this false narrative that only human trafficking happens by crossing a border or from Mexico to the United States or any of these other countries to the United States. And what that does to survivors like myself is it makes it seem like we're not survivors, and it makes us not want to step forward. We don't identify as survivors. One of our biggest hurdles in the survivor space is getting survivors to understand and recognize the fact that they are survivors of these crimes by explaining the crime to them. So that's really important. So now when we talk about the border, we need to talk about a few things. What we have seen over a collection of data for quite a few years is that predominantly, because the National Human Trafficking Hotline works directly in correlation with the Mexican National Human Trafficking Hotline. They have their own human trafficking hotline, and they all kind of work together. By the way, you can be trafficked in Mexico and stay in Mexico. So this is not, you don't have to leave Mexico to be trafficked, and you don't have to leave the United States to be trafficked. But what they found is that most of the trafficking survivors that are coming up through Mexico are survivors of labor trafficking by quite a large disproportionate number. So that's the other thing. We always say like sex trafficking, it happens and it's absolutely horrible. I'm not trying to diminish it at all, but we have to stick to the facts. Labor trafficking from these areas of the world is at a much higher rate. And anyone that's in the United States, so where my fear is when you have folks that are coming through the border at such a high rate, children getting separated, it leaves them more vulnerable to be trafficked once they're in the United States. That's my fear. So when folks, so as we know, some vulnerable populations would include folks without legal documentation, folks that are here undocumented. They would be at a much higher risk for being labor or sex trafficked.
Wow.
Sorry, that's a mouthful. It's extremely
No,
nuanced.
it's a lot. Yeah. And also I'm just now learning it seems like people are just like, oh, you just grab a kid, and if you cross into the United States, like they'll be more lenient with you. Is it your feeling that that's something coming into the country? They'll feel like, oh, well, I'll have an easier time like getting in if I have just some kid with me.
Yes, and I feel that that does happen. It's not every case at all. I think it's disingenuous to act like it's every case. In fact, I forget who it is. They put up the actual number, the actual numbers of folks that come across as family units, but they're false family units, or with a child that's not their own. But there's a lot of nuance right now. We need to back it all the way up, and figure out what's going on. And get it fixed ASAP, because above and beyond everything else, whether or not we're talking about human trafficking, and human trafficking definitely is included, we're talking about a humanitarian crisis. Like, even if children are not being trafficked, let's take that out of the equation. What's going on right now is absolutely horrible. Like, these children are about to be put at a NASA facility. There's too many. And it's not that I want to do tit for tat or whataboutism, but the truth is, even the numbers that we're seeing right now with the massive child, I don't want to say children in cages, but that's what they were saying. I mean, this absolutely humanitarian crisis, even at what it is now, which is the largest numbers we've ever seen, our domestic human trafficking situation is still much worse. Our child sexual abuse material situation online is much worse. So, if we are going to focus on something that has to do with human trafficking, let's go for the worst and try to chisel away at that. I'm not saying don't pay attention to the border. I'm saying that's not the only spot that human trafficking is happening.
Yeah, and I think I heard like Jen Psaki, the president's press secretary, saying like, "Oh, there's more people because there's more hope. People are more hopeful, which is why they're coming to the border." I was like, "Oh boy, the spin is unreal."
Well, that's fine. And by the way, I'm somebody that's very pro legal immigration. I feel like that's the fact. States. I say, we have plenty of space. Like, definitely where I live, we have plenty of space. And I definitely want folks to come here legally. Like, that's definitely a priority. I love that type of stuff. That makes the United States amazing. But right now, what's going on at the border is a humanitarian crisis.
And it just makes all these other problems, like it makes people vulnerable, right? Because that one kind of leads into the other. And it's just so scary. I can't imagine how scary it is for those kids. And
scary. I mean, English isn't their first language. So, and the other thing too, I want folks to remember, especially when we're thinking about compassion for these folks, they're in a place of fear. So if they're being sexually assaulted, sexually abused, trafficked for labor or sex, reaching out to the authorities like the police would be very difficult. Not only may you not know how to do it, think about that. You might not even have a cell phone, but reaching out to them, depending on what you're being told by your trafficker or what you were told prior to coming into the United States. Also, I want folks to remember that these, in the eyes of traffickers, abusers, are seen as disposable people. They're seen as disposable. They're just a number. It would be like, it's like this hoodie. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's just not, I would like throw it away and it would be nothing.
Right. Because they make money off of getting you across the border. They kind of don't care what happens to you after that.
Well, that's in a case of human smuggling, yes. Now, if we're talking about cartels and things like that, that's where we get a little bit more into the human trafficking end of things. The cartels are.
Oh my God, this is so horrible. I don't know
that's pretty much the worst. Trust me. There are a lot of moments, like, honestly, Chrissie, there's a lot of moments where I'm like, I should just go focus on makeup or something, because this is like literally kind of the more I'm finding out, the more hopeless I truly think that the situation is. And I'm not trying to be black pilled. Like I stay pretty white pilled, you know, but you know, my friends always remind me like, okay, that's why you just focus on one survivor at a time.
Yeah. Or
That's
maybe
why
you could combine the two, like your two interests of makeup, and it'd be like Eliza Bleu, makeup that stops traffic.
well, believe it or
Literally.
not, the first idea, well, funny you should mention it. No, the first idea for the podcast was me doing makeup tutorials and talking about human trafficking, human rights, consent, sexual assault, domestic violence, but just, you know, so more aimed at the younger demographic. But now my podcast, my soon to be podcast, is shaping up to have a different theme. And then maybe later on, I'll do other projects as well.
Yeah, you can always do like those videos like additionally on your channel or on socials, like, and they would actually explode on social media because like they're quick, and like if you want to throw them on TikTok, like you will grab those younger viewers for sure, like those people that you want to reach. And I was just thinking too, like imagine like, yeah, I just picked up and wanted to go to Italy or Sweden or something. Like I would have no clue like what to do, where to go, how to call the cops. Like even if I had a cell phone, I'd be like, I
had a survivor in crisis the other day, and the survivor lives outside the country, and I was flying, so I couldn't serve the survivor in a way that I felt was best for the needs at the time. And so I had to get another advocate ready, and the survivor said, please don't have this other advocate call the cops. I said, brutal, honestly, I don't even think we know how to like call the cops there. Even if, like, we don't know how to do stuff there. Like, it's really hard for us. I mean, I guess we could figure it out, but we'd have to know like the, you know, the addresses and stuff there. And they use the same English, you know what I'm saying? So it's just,
like, let me get my Google Translate going. Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, so just remember, like, let's definitely keep a compassionate mind for these folks that are going through this. And the other thing too is I'm not necessarily thinking that it is their fault. They may be given faulty information. In fact, I would just about guarantee it. I'm assuming that the folks that are coming across the border, and it's always not good to assume, but I'm assuming that the folks that are coming across at scale are saying like, you know, at this magnitude are getting told that it is an open border and that everything's good to go and that they can come across. This would be at the benefit of the cartels, the smugglers, the coyotes, and the human traffickers.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're just taking advantage of it. This is crazy. Eliza, how can people find you, follow you, and where can they find the Dr. Drew episode when it comes out?
So yeah, I'll be on Dr. Drew on March 18th, and that'll be on Ask Dr. Drew, and I'm very excited. We'll see how it goes. I was excited to talk to you because this is my first. Actually, I tweeted this morning falsehood. I said this is my first interview since Tim Pool, but you were my last interview since Tim Pool. So you're my last.
Oh my God. I'm obsessed with you. That's why.
I mean, maybe I'm obsessed with you too. And my best friend said to me, my best friend's like obsessed with you. And she's like, Chrissie, like coming all the way up. She's been naming every time you do an interview. She tells me, she sends me your selfies from Instagram because I'm not really on Instagram like that. She's like, yo, look at your girl. I was going to message you the other night because you look so fly. She sent me this picture of you in Dallas, I think. I forget.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I was like getting ready before my stand-up show, and you have to like take advantage of that 10 minutes before you start like sweating and drinking and getting anxious to do stand-up. Yeah.
Girl, she sent me that little mirror selfie, or what would you call the mirror selfie? I'm like,
yeah, like the little hotel self. Yeah.
Girl, you were giving me so much life. I was like zooming in, you know, you like zoom in, like, oh, that's my girl. Anyway, where you can find me, yes, doing Dr. Drew doing Dr. Drew on March 18th at 3:00 Pacific. My Twitter is at Eliza Bleu, at ELIZABLEU. And then by far my absolute favorite thing ever is Locals. I'm so extra. Favorite thing ever. No, my favorite thing ever is Locals. So Locals is a free speech content creator platform, and that's that is Eliza, ELIZA.locals.com. So that's Eliza.locals.com. And soon I will have my own podcast where I will be interviewing survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking, and folks in the survivor space, and abusers, convicted abusers, pedophiles, and traffickers as well.
Oh boy, that's amazing. that's the Lord's work, Eliza. I don't know what else is. Thank you so much for coming on. Yes, follow Eliza on Twitter while you still can, while she's not banned, and then definitely get on that locals train. I know. Every time I talk to him, like I have to join, but I really do have to join.
Literally, like it's a tidal wave. Everybody's on there. Okay, I know last time I said everybody's on there, but this time I'm serious. Like
everyone's really there.
Everybody's really there now. Like for real. Like everybody's for real there.
It's like a party. It's happening without me. I got to get over there.
Yeah, sorry.
Eliza, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for updating us on this Twitter shenanigans. I hope it all works out. I hope they get what they deserve, because this is bullshit. But yes, thanks for the update, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on. Bye.